Welcome to my ultimate Spider-Man guide. For those of you that don't know me, I reached top 100 on both the alpha and the beta playing Spider-Man, went undefeated in the official tournament, and have also been top 500 in Overwatch multiple times. On top of my knowledge and experience, I've scoured the internet for guides and tricks to give you the best guide possible. This video will be timestamped, but if you want to skip ahead to specific parts, feel free, but I highly recommend watching all the way through. I'll be going over his abilities, combos you're going to be utilizing, and some advanced tips and tricks. If you think I missed something or have any questions, I'll be streaming Marvel Rivals over at twitch.tv/Tephrite98 almost every day and be happy to help. Right, let's start out with some settings. If you didn't already know, each hero has their own specific settings, which enable options tailored to each hero. The first thing I'd suggest is turning off automatic swing. This setting does seem super helpful when just starting out, as what it does is just by pressing your web swing ability, Spidey would automatically pick a structure to attach to and use that as the anchor point. Having this setting on, however, does hinder you in many ways. When the setting is off, the player must aim at the structure to start the web swing. Wherever the player aims, the web will stick to, provided that it is in range. Having this flexibility will allow you to fly through and maneuver your way around the map and do some crazy fast rollouts, which can come in super clutch when you need to touch point at the last second. Another thing that this unfortunately stops you from doing is web zipping. When aiming below head height, instead of creating an arced swing, Spidey will instead web zip himself to wherever your cursor is. This is extremely helpful for getting out of sticky situations, pun intended, especially when you are indoors. You can web zip to both walls and the floor. One of the little tricks I like to do for some free damage is web zip to the feet of the enemy, uppercut them, and then swing away. But we'll get into more advanced tips and tricks like that later on though. The next setting isn't as vital, but it is still very important in my opinion, which is to turn hole to wall crawl on. This happens to the best of us, but Spider-Man will sometimes engage in a wall climb at the worst time when you are trying to jump away. Having this setting off means that when you do actually stick to the wall due to jump spamming, Spidey will stick to the wall for a second or two before disengaging. Turning this setting on means that the second you stop holding that button, you will jump off the wall, which allows you to escape these scary situations a lot quicker. There is one more setting I would suggest changing, but I will touch on that later on. Right, let's get into his abilities. Spidey is a melee character first. His primary fire throws out 2 punches that deal 25 damage each, and a third kick which hits for 40 damage. After performing a double jump, Spidey gets a slam down attack which also deals 40 damage. Due to the animation, it might be best to slightly delay the input to make it easier to guarantee that hit. Spidey's primary fire can be animation cancelled by all of his abilities, so if you are able to weave it in, make sure to do that for some free damage. There's nothing too complicated here to know, so let's move on to his secondary fire, which is his web clusters. Spidey has a resource meter in the middle of his screen. These are his spider clusters, of which he can have a maximum of 5 at a time. When using your secondary fire, Spidey shoots out a projectile that deals 30 damage, lasts for 3 seconds, and will immediately begin recharging. This is the extent of Spidey's ranged capabilities, however. Applying a spider tracer on a target gives 2 added benefits. Firstly, upon using another ability on the target, the tracer will explode, dealing an extra 45 damage. This is where a lot of your wombo combo damage comes from as Spidey. However, keep in mind that tracers do not stack. Secondly, it enables a special feature out of your Get Over Here ability, which we will go into right now. Spidey's E ability is Get Over Here, where Spidey pulls his enemy towards him. When the target has a Spidey tracer on them, an icon will appear above the target and allow you to pull yourself towards them instead. Upon reaching the target, Spidey will kick the target for 50 damage and slightly knocking them up. Keep in mind that Get Over Here does not detonate the tracer. Earlier I mentioned that there was one more setting I wanted to go over for you guys, and that is changing your keybind for Get Over Here to something else. Me personally, I have it on X. What this does is it allows you to still pull a target towards you whilst they have a tracer on them. This is extremely good if you see an enemy just a bit too pushed up and separated from their team. You can pull them into your team and dunk on them, or even get a cheeky pull off the map. Next up is his powerhouse ability. Spidey's F ability is his big damaging uppercut, amazing combo, which sends people up in the air, dealing 55 damage. His uppercut does have 2 charges, however you can't just spam it as there is a 2-second cooldown after using it. This ability is what you'll be using the most to combo things with. However, I will touch on this more in the advanced tips and tricks section of this video. You can use this ability to destroy the backline, DPS, or disrupt tanks and big clusters of enemies, and even allow you to get off some safe damage. Now onto the craziest part of his kit, his ultimate. Spidey's ultimate is Spectacular Spin, which doubles his health, giving him 250 over health, and allows Spidey to cast a flurry of webs all around him, which can absolutely shred enemies and stuns them too. Keep in mind, however, you are not CC immune when you are using this. This ability has massive team-wide potential, however However, it can easily be countered by other ultimates too, so also be aware of that. Spidey also has a couple passives. He can double jump, wall climb, wall run, hang off these walls, and also has a neat little trick called Spidey Sense, where Spider-Man is alerted when there are enemies nearby. Currently, Spidey has 2 team-ups in the game. The first is with Squirrel Girl, where he is the anchor, which means he just gets 10% damage boost, which isn't really that much. However, she does get an ability that allows her to throw an explosion and immobilize enemies. The main team-up you guys want is with Venom. When Venom is on your team, Spidey gets an extra ability called Suit Expulsion, which turns Spidey immune to CC for its duration, as well as bursting out AoE damage. This ability can turn Spidey from a nuisance into an absolute killing machine. So, now that you know how Spidey works, let's get into the best ways to play him. Since Spidey has 250 HP and no defensive cooldowns, he's a squishy guy, so you want to make sure you're getting in and out quickly. Whenever available, you want to combo your web tracers with your uppercut, as this will deal a massive explosion of damage. To most duelists with 250 HP, the safest way to kill them is to land 3 web clusters on them, then pull yourself in and go for the uppercut. This way you don't need to overcommit until you can guarantee the kill. However, this does require a lot of resources. You can get the same job done by only using 2 web clusters and then adding a melee attack right after. However, this leaves you in a predictable movement and out in the open, so be mindful of that too. To some strategists who have 275 health, the triple cluster combo will still need a melee at the end of it, so personally, I don't think it's worth it. However, if you do the double cluster combo, jump right after the uppercut, you will perform a slam down attack, which is enough damage to kill. As I mentioned earlier, having Venom allows Spidey to be extremely deadly. For 275 HP targets like Luna and Mantis, you need to land 2 web clusters, pull in, uppercut, and immediately use the team up ability when the damage goes off. You can cancel this ability right after the damage is done to avoid being a sitting duck. Where this gets really crazy is for the 250 HP targets. You only need to land 1 web cluster. Heroes like Mantis and Luna who have CC will try to stop you when you engage, so switching around when you use your team up can help you evade their stuns by utilizing the CC immunity you get from the team up. Another quick tip is you can also cancel your slam down with an uppercut for some big damage with the tracers applied. It's a bit hard to get off on ping, but it's a great way to apply damage when your things are on cooldown. Speaking of cooldowns, just because your get over here is on cooldown doesn't mean you are useless. A great way to just get some damage out or disrupt an enemy team is by using your uppercut to cancel your swing. You still preserve momentum when doing this, so you can get off damage whilst also being super evasive. Another thing you can do is after applying the tracers, you can web zip to the feet of your enemies and uppercut right after, as I mentioned earlier. However, keep in mind you do preserve a little momentum here too, so getting off that final melee to kill might be a bit tough. Spidey also has some great synergy with a lot of the cast. Besides Venom being absolutely insane to play with, Hulk and most dive comps were great for him. This doesn't mean he's just good with dive heroes though. If you have a Mantis on your team, having her buff your damage right before you go in can also be absolutely deadly. Another strategist is Luna Snow, which could also be super helpful as she can put her snowflake on you to give you some extra heals when you're not in her line of sight. You might not think it at first due to him being melee, but Spidey is also insanely good at flyers like Iron Man, so be sure to use these combos and prioritize killing them. Speaking of heroes Spidey is good and bad against, there's a few things to look out for. Since Spidey is a backline assassin, you want to be focusing their strategists. You need to be able to dip in, bait out abilities like Adam Warlock's Soul Bond, which will just absolutely negate all your damage, as well as Mantis' Sleep, which is quite easy to land on melee heroes. Some heroes like Rocket also have dashes that can make it easy to escape before you land your uppercut. The biggest menace in the strategist lineup in my opinion is Loki, as not only can he make everyone including himself vulnerable, but he can also TP and go invisible, meaning he's extremely hard to kill to the point where it might not even be worth focusing him. In the duelist lineup, Punisher and Bucky can be absolutely deadly, as Punisher's shotgun will make light work of you as well as Bucky's combo. There is one lone duelist who can make your life a living hell, and that is Namor, as his turrets will chip away at you, giving away your location and making you even more squishy when diving in. In these types of games, it is still possible to find value as Spider-Man, but you play as more of a distraction or disruptor by using the uppercut swing cancel and the web pull that I mentioned earlier. Well, that's all I have for you today. Like I said earlier, if you think I missed something, feel free to leave a comment down below or ask me on Twitch. If you find this at all helpful, be sure to subscribe and share with a fellow Spidey enjoyer. Peace.